I'm Jessica Denson, and you are watching a special edition of Lights On with Jessica Denson. This is a special Sunday live. I do not usually do live spur of the moment like this, but I frankly was inspired to last night after watching Kamala Harris's full interview with Stephen Colbert. So many things came to me listening to her responses in this interview, and so many of you have asked me to comment on this very popular Substack about an ex-CIA whistleblower going on the record to say the NSA audited the 2024 election. Kamala Harris won. So I really just had so many threads to share with you about the connection that I saw in this new reporting, as well as what we have been reporting on Lights On for so long about knowing that this election was anything but free and fair, and some kind of really deep introspection and humility that I've had just over the past day about love and gratitude and self-worth, and how the power, the transformative power of love can really free us from this awful injustice that we are suffering as a nation right now. So there is going to be a healthy dose of soul and spirituality in this episode that comes from a deep place, as I mentioned, of humility and introspection. So if that's not your cup of tea, you can pass now to the next video. I won't be offended, but that is what I really believe will get us out of this. And Kamala Harris spoke a lot about that last night, about God, about prayer, about our own power. So many of the themes that she was repeating so much during the campaign, and that clearly resonated with the majority of this country. So you have a special, different episode of Lights On that you're tuning into right now. Let me start with the article that is on Substack, on the Substack page, This Will Hold, written by a woman named Tanya, who is a friend of Lights On, and we've spoken, and I hope to really delve more into this with her and get some more background, just to read the cover of the lead on this. It is, quote, "In December 2024, I was personally involved in an NSA authorized forensic audit of the 2024 election." Now, this is the claim by a man named Adam Zarnowski, an ex-CIA agent and the author of a book called Jormungandr, which is about human trafficking and his work in that field. He says, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz won by a wide margin. Trump lost dramatically. There are multiple layers of complexity to this cover-up, including transactional organized crime syndicates that extend far beyond the United States and our elections. To that point, I work in the human trafficking sector, which intersects with the stolen elections and has ties to Trump and Epstein, not to President Biden, Vice President Harris, or Governor Walz, but to the Democrats and other allied interests responsible for burying the audit. Now, that is obviously it's a bombshell claim to make. And I will tell you that I have done some preliminary cross checks with other cybersecurity experts that I know, and just asked them to give me, election security experts, to give me their feedback on that claim. And I will tell you, one of the responses that I got was that there's a little bit of a question as to his claim that a forensic audit was done, since there have not been any hand count of audits. There have not been any retention of the actual voting machines to conduct a forensic audit. So they had a little bit of a question as to how a forensic audit could have been conducted by the NSA. That said, if you proceed through this Substack article, you will see that Adam is calling himself for a hand recount and really raising the urgency of needing to probe this issue further, which is what I'm going to talk about when I get to the Stephen Colbert interview with Kamala Harris. We really absolutely have to address this. We cannot let this go. We must address it if we ever have any hope, as I've said countless times, of having a legitimate election in this country. Again, the article goes on to list the vulnerabilities of our voting machines, in particular the ES and S operated voting machines that are prolific in this country, and the vendor that was supposed to mitigate any software vulnerabilities in these machines and did not do that. And this is reiterated in this article, but this is not new reporting. This has been known for quite some time. Some of the cybersecurity experts and election security experts I've had on this program in the past have told me that clearly, including Susan Greenhall, the election security advisor for Free Speech for People, Duncan Buell, who leads the computer science department at the University of South Carolina. Both of them were on a letter that was penned to Kamala Harris in November of this year. It's the reason I left MeidasTouch to be able to have this conversation with Clarity when they were pleading with Kamala Harris just to conduct recounts, because they knew that the voting machines had not been secured after Donald Trump and his co-conspirators gained access to these machines after the 2020 election. The necessary safeguards were never done to these machines, and all kinds of misconceptions as to our elections being secure were so secure and impenetrable were out there, in particular because any mention of the notion that we might have to do better election hygiene was wrongfully conflated with the efforts of Trump and MAGA in 2020 to claim a stolen election when it in fact was not, and when they in fact had countless recounts, countless audits, and did everything under the sun to be able to see that Biden did in fact win that, and they wouldn't even take that as a result, as we know. Instead, Donald Trump led a deadly insurrection. So frankly, I do have more digging to do on the Substack article, but I will tell you, with or without doing that, I already know from all of the work that I have done reporting on this show, from all of the experts I have talked to, from all of the data scientists who are looking at the voting irregularities and anomalies in voting behavior, from others such as Greg Palast, who I've had on the program talking about the massive voter suppression, where he explained to me that if all legal ballots were counted and all legal voters were allowed to vote, Trump would have lost the states of Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. Harris would have won the presidency with 286 electoral votes. She did not, because according to Greg Palast, who is an independent journalist who has worked for The Guardian, BBC, many other highly reputable outlets, and has dug deep into the issue of voter suppression, he says that if not for the mass purge of voters of color, if not for the mass disqualification of provisional and mail-in ballots, if not for the new mass vigilante challenges in swing states, which is the subject of his documentary, Vigilante Inc., Harris would have gained at least another 3,565,000 votes, topping Trump's official popular vote tally by 1.2 million. 1.2 million, at least, just on the issue of voter suppression, even leaving all of the other data manipulation that is highly likely to have occurred out of the picture. There's also other individuals, such as a man named David Rodriguez, who has gone to great lengths to investigate what appears to be a massive discrepancy in the amount of registered voters before the election and after the election. He says just prior to 2024, November of 2024, it was reported there were nearly 18 million new registered voters in the U.S. since the 2022 midterms, yet that increase in registered voters appears to have completely vanished after the election. What happened?